Hello and welcome to the kickoff with your host William Bayliss, and as always, we are joined by the one and only Joe Wright. How you doing, Joe? It hasn't been the best week for both of us, has it?
No, it hasn't. Obviously, both our teams lost crucial games in our season. You'd say, wouldn't you? Obviously, different levels, but different levels of kind of what it meant to both of us. But it was still both probably our most crucial games of the season, and we lost both. So, in terms of both teams, Forest and Leicester. So, yeah, very difficult sort of week for us. But we move on. It's what about supporting the team's all about, isn't it? So. That's what supporting a team's all about, and yeah, so let's get talking about it.
Yeah, but before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and all of the links are down below in the description. So, and if you'd like to also share your thoughts or opinions, we're more than happy to listen to them, and we'll love to get them on the podcast next week or something, wouldn't we, Joe?
Exactly, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Right, so let's start with Leicester City, shall we? So Leicester City were in the semi-final of the Conference League playing Roma. They went into the leg 1-1, didn't they? And
Yeah.
it was a crucial away leg in Roma. And Joe, I'll let you.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was feeling optimistic about the game in terms of I thought we played better in our home leg, obviously as you'd expect them to do, because in front of the fans and it was a sellout and everything. 1-1, I was quite happy with, considering we were 1-0 down in the tie originally. Going into sort of Thursday night, I thought, well, we could nick it here. Do you know what I mean? And I think I expected us to have more possession, simply because we were playing in Jose Mourinho's side. So obviously he likes to play counter-attacking football, doesn't he? And sort of park the bus a little bit. So I was expecting us to have a lot of the ball, which turned out to be true. We just didn't do a lot with it. But yeah, we obviously Tammy Abrahams scored a header from a corner sort of early on, sort of 13 minutes in, and then once that happens against the Jose Mourinho side, you're always struggling.
Yeah.
Because if you're chasing the game, he can set up areas, traps, and obviously very defensively, and that's exactly what happened. I thought Chris Smalling, by the way, had an absolute worldie of a game. Marshalled Vardy very well. Bear in mind, Vardy's just come back from injury at the age of 34, 35. So obviously he wasn't at his best. But still, Smalling had a great game. Obviously, both the centre backs had a great game. And just going on to Chris Smalling, just very quickly, I know I'm diverting a bit, but do you think Man U have made a mistake letting him go? Just very quickly, well, because he seemed to have a great game for me on Thursday.
Well, yeah, we all felt that at Man United, he started to stagnate a little bit. He got a bit. I think he needed the new scenery to get going. So he wouldn't be the player who he is now if he was still at Man United. If that makes sense. So sometimes that new experience is to get you be a better player. So different ways of playing.
100%. But I do believe at the moment he's showing better form than either Lindelof or Maguire. I won't quite say Varane because he's had a bit of hit and miss season, and obviously I'm quite a big advocate for Varane. I think he's a good centre back. I just think he's just had a bad season with injuries. But yeah, anyway, going on to Leicester, I think obviously very, very disappointed. But this stuff happens. You know what I mean? We've been in European competitions for the last 2 seasons now, and I actually do think that next season, and this is genuinely what I said after the game, on my TikTok, by the way, if anyone wants to head over there. But I did say that I think with the competitions and everything, and having a game sort of every couple of days for Leicester is a stretch too far. We don't have the squad depth at the moment. Our second string isn't good enough. And it just means that we've got a lot more likely to pick up injuries. The more games you play, the more injuries you could pick up. And we've had that this season. We've had a lot of injuries, and I think it has caught up with us a bit. Obviously, we had our first full 11, but you could definitely tell there was a lot of rustiness in some of the players. And yeah, it just didn't quite happen for us. I was very disappointed. Obviously, I wanted to get through to the final, but I have to say I'm less disappointed than I thought I was gonna be. In terms of it wasn't for me, it didn't feel like the end of the world after the game. I think it's because, quite honestly, I thought Roma were the better team. And
I think that always makes you feel a bit better. Like, we'll come into a Forest Bournemouth match, but Bournemouth, regardless of the controversy around the game, Bournemouth deserved to win that game. So
yeah,
I was less upset as a result. So I know exactly what you mean in terms of that, because I think, like, if it's a really close game and it's like a very controversial game, you always feel like worse, especially if you were like winning going in to the last a few minutes, which we'll get to later on with the Man City.
I mean,
I'll be a lot more hurt if I was a Man City fan right now.
Yeah, exactly. Just to give you a stat for Leicester, and then we'll move on to Forest. They didn't have a shot on target until the 80th minute. So that shows you kind of the lack of, and that's what it was for us defensively. I thought we were all right. I don't actually think Roma causes that many problems. He just got the goal and sat back. So I was never really fearful we were going to concede a second. Do you know what I mean? But it just nothing happened going forward. I think that's the way Mourinho plays. So yeah, it was very disappointing. Obviously, very disappointed. But I think in terms of for us and our development next season, to not be in Europe is actually a good thing, and I think that's the way I'm looking at it in terms of a positive.
Yeah. Would you say the occasion with like the really loud crowd probably got the better of some of your players?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. No, I don't think I didn't see fear on the players' faces. I genuinely just believe that the fans obviously do help. They give the players a lift and stuff, and obviously the players are getting the crowd behind them and everything. It was obviously fantastic to see. But I think if the players look at themselves, was that a factor as to why they lost? I don't think it was. I think it was just Roma were better in the style that they used. You know what I mean? It was a very boring match actually. If you were a neutral, so you know it was exactly what Mourinho wanted to do, and they executed it greatly. But we just need to start moving the ball quicker. I don't know what's going to happen now for Leicester for the rest of the season, but we've just got to finish the season strong. I know we've got nothing to play for. We're sitting about 11th. We're not going to go down. We're not going to get Europe. We're not going to get Europe. So it's just about how we kind of move on now for the rest of the season and into next.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And let's move on to Forest, shall we then? Because leading on to the game, so let me just let my cat out. He's being very annoying.
Classic.
I was feeling so nervous about it. I'd never felt so nervous for a match. I was telling you, like, I didn't even feel this nervous going into the Euros. So I'm not saying something because I found nervous going into the final of the Euros. But in the first half, we had a penalty. Well, we should have had a penalty, but they gave it offside, which was actually onside. And the referee actually apologised to Cooper after the game. So that was a painful one. But in the second half, it was just attack after attack after attack. Forest just couldn't get out of their own half. Bournemouth just went into the Premier League gear, which we all know they can because they've got Premier League quality players with parachute flames, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Bournemouth deserved to win that game. And I know a lot of Forest fans have been complaining online, but you have to just take the pill, don't you?
No, you do, and I think, and as much as it was a big game for you guys, it's a sore one to kind of it's sore one to take, but you don't know what would have happened after that penalty, whether it would have been missed, whether it would have been scored. Do you know what I mean? And you don't know. I mean, it's very easy to be very reactive as fans, isn't it? You know, very reactive. Because you don't know how Bournemouth would have responded either. You know, you don't know how they could have equalised straight away. You don't know because it does change the psychology of the game, doesn't it? Completely.
No, 100% there. And interestingly enough, it's not over now because we're going to be in the playoffs confirmed. Obviously, we don't know who we're going to play yet at the time of recording because it's just 2 hours before kickoff between Forest and Hull. So we're either going to finish third or fourth. But interestingly enough, that after the game, the EFL came out saying they're going to use VAR in the playoffs. So I don't know if the Forest owner, I know he spoke in complaints to the EFL. I don't know if it had any bearing whatsoever in VAR being implemented in the playoffs. I don't know what you think of that, Joe.
I mean, I don't think there's any as much as we have an issue with VAR and all that sort of stuff. I don't think really any set of fans can have can have a complaint about VAR being used. Again, I'm talking about VAR on its own. Forget the referees for a second, because the mistakes when using VAR are made by the refs, aren't they still? So
yeah.
VAR is a thing, I think, is a good thing for the playoffs. I think, realistically, if you know had VAR the other night, that penalty would have been overturned.
You know what's going to happen now, Joe? Forest are going to get like 3 goals disallowed through VAR, which one or the referee wants to tune on his own.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that's the case, that's the case. That's what you got to roll with punches. I mean, you got to remember, I'm talking from a fan's point of view of seeing it every week used on his team in and out of the Premier League, so I'm used to it. So for you, this will be a new experience for seeing your team with it being used.
Yeah, apart from in the FA Cup against Liverpool, where the Liverpool goal got ruled given, and we should have
even though it wasn't. But that's besides the point. But yeah, I think it's just a case of I think it's a good thing for the playoffs, and whether that's something he complained about, surely he'd want to kind of make an even playing field. But I can understand some people's skepticism. I mean, I'm very skeptical about it, but again, you've got to look at the referees and not the VAR itself, because that is something that is needed in the game. Because you look at how they use it a lot of the time around Europe, and it's used a lot better. You look at how it was used in the European Championships, and actually there was far less complaints.
Yeah, I think it's implemented a lot better. Speaking about refereeing decisions and feeling better about yourself, let's move on to the Man City match. Now, what a game in the end, though, wasn't it? I know after the first leg it was 4-3 to Man City, which was one of the best, arguably one of the best Champions League games I've seen. Not ever, but like a really, really good game. And Man City scored about 79 minutes, didn't they? So they were leading by 2 goals.
Yeah.
89th minute, and then what happened, Joe?
Well, of course, ball gets lofted in, I think, by Casemiro. Benzema there for the cutback, and then obviously the Real Madrid striker puts it in, scores. I think it's Ricardo. Is it Ricardo or Romero? One of those. He's a young lad, quite a new player.
Yeah, Rodrigo.
Rodrigo, that's it. Sorry, Rodrigo. So yeah, he scores the first one, and then of course,
I just say I think it's poor defending.
Oh yeah. I think it is. I think it is. Especially you can't leave the world's best number 9 unmarked, who can also get you an assist. Realistically, and also Cancelo. If you look at it, the rest of the back 4, so the 3 of them, they keep their line. Cancelo drops with Benzema keeping him onside. So very poor defending. But yeah, so ball comes in. And obviously Rodrigo scores second, and then literally a minute later, it might even be less than a minute, you've got Carvajal so the ball's getting passed around on the right hand side of the pitch. Carvajal gets the ball, whips in a delicious ball, but again, poor defending. The two Real Madrid strikers basically unmarked. Ball comes to Rodrigo again, and he scores a header, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Well, honestly,
it's not like he's a tall player, is he? Like
no, it's a good header though. It was a very good header in terms of an unmarked header. You couldn't have got it any more sweet, could you? Really, top corner, keeper had no chance.
Just before that, Jack Grealish came on, and he should have put it to bed. But it was a fantastic 2 world-class saves by Courtois, wasn't it?
Well, it was actually Mendy who cleared it off the line for the second one. Absolute world-class defending in terms of that, getting back and making sure the ball didn't go in. But you thought it was going to be 2-0 and thus putting Man City 3 goals up on the night. No problem. But then of course, you really thought then, went into extra time, you really thought the momentum was with Real Madrid, didn't you?
Yeah.
And Benzema obviously gets tackled in the box again. I think it's a poor tackle because he's going away from goal.
I thought it was really poor.
It was Diaz, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, which
Diaz putting his foot in when he didn't really need to. Benzema was going away from goal, obviously falls over. It was definitely a penalty. No debate about it. It was poor tackle in the box. And then, of course, Benzema's taking the penalty, and you don't really trust anybody else at the moment in world football to put it. I'm talking about in pressure situations as well. I mean, we saw him in the reverse game do a Panenka, didn't we? To make it 4-3, and he just dispatches it with the right side, and Real Madrid went on to win. And question for you, Will, now, because obviously I've spoke about the game, but is Pep underachieved with this Man City side now? Because, I mean, it's been 5 years. We've obviously had a Champions League final, lost to Chelsea, lost to Real Madrid, especially in those key moments. Can't see, and I think, honestly, there's massive pressure for them in the Champions League because it's the one they haven't won with the amount of money they've spent.
No, I think he has in a way because they bought him in to win the Champions League. Yes, to win the league as well, but they'd already won the league prior to that anyway, with Mancini, hadn't they? So
Mancini and Pellegrini as well. So
yeah,
two different
exactly. And I think I saw it in the media that Man City lack a mentality, like a winning, stern mentality, which I completely agree with. Like, have a look at Liverpool; they know how to deal with these big finals.
I think there's a massive difference with Liverpool and Man City, and it's one that I noticed both in the Champions League. So obviously Liverpool won't go into too much because of time, but Liverpool were 2-0 down in the leg, where it's 2-2 on aggregate, and they went on to win 3-2. Brilliant, resilient, all of that. So the two different teams. But what I will say is, in the Premier League, I feel like if you look at the two teams, right? If you look at the two teams, you say that which one of these teams are you more likely to put pressure on? Get a goal against, or which one are you more likely to give them a difficult time? And I'd honestly say Liverpool. I think Liverpool are a fantastic team, but I think if you're a team facing Liverpool, you can get a goal.
Yeah, I think that's due to their such high line.
Yeah.
I had a look at a stat as well. Sorry to digress here, but Alisson has made the most saves in one-on-one situations, so that just shows how key of a role he has been this season.
And he's a fantastic keeper. Do you know what I mean? It's to say that one-on-one with Alisson is kind of only 60-70% in the striker's favour is ridiculous for a goalkeeper stat, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of he's got a 30% chance, 40% chance in a one-on-one situation that's typically going to overfavour the striker is ridiculous. But no, I think what I'm saying is obviously you can score a goal against Liverpool, and not so much against Man City. But what that means is Liverpool often find themselves in situations where they are in more pressure situations. And they're used to fighting back. They're used to having that resilience. They're used to having that kind of sturdy, kind of like, right, we need to get points like this. And how many times have they been at 0-0, or they've been 1-0 down the season and they've come back to win, or they've I mean, look at Everton the other week. They weren't playing their best, but they went on and won 2-0. They don't steamroller teams like Man City. But then what happens is, in those big occasions and those big nights, because Man City aren't used to being under pressure, they really aren't. If you look at them as a team, when it comes to the Champions League and they face somebody like Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, it's a cauldron, isn't it? And it's a massive pressure. And they literally, as soon as the first goal went in, I said to myself, "They've got a chance here because Man City could capitulate. They could." And that's exactly what happened, because they can't deal with those pressure moments. Especially because that pressure moment didn't look like it was going to come at all, did it?
No, exactly, yeah. I mean, out of nowhere, I think they hadn't had a shot on target until the 89th minute. Real Madrid did they?
I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's Real Madrid. I thought there was some dodgy calls. I mean, some of the refereeing. Casemiro was very, very lucky to be on the pitch.
He can be on the pitch, and also in the second half of the extra time, there was about 12 minutes of them on the floor, and they only gave 3 minutes at a time, which was like,
yeah,
I did feel corrupt.
And then the referee blew 10 seconds early as well. So
yeah,
You know, I mean, there's been a lot of. I mean, the referee in our game the other night, not blaming it on the ref because again, like I said, Roman deserved it, so I'm not going to be sour. Barely mentioned the ref, but he was awful as well. The other night, and I think there's been a few games where the referees in Europe this week have been absolutely shocking. Like, and I don't just mean like shocking as in like, oh, that was a bad call or whatever. I mean like, you know, obvious calls missed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a bit disheartening for the English clubs in terms of Liverpool though got through. Good for them. You know, I think they'll be favourites, and they won't be playing at the Bernabeu as well, which I think will help. Don't discount Real Madrid though; they've got some class players obviously, and Benzema could carry them to a 14th Champions League, which is unbelievable, really.
Yeah, that is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, especially when realistically over the last couple of years, you know, in terms of they've won 3 on the bounce, didn't they? I think 2014, 15 and 16. Or when you think about the teams that they've not actually had the sparkling Real Madrid team that we're used to, and yet they keep competing in these competitions, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it is.
Right, let's move on then. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the relegation battle. Just very briefly, who have you got now, Will? Because obviously you're looking at Everton, Leeds, Burnley.
Yeah. Leeds have been dragged into this because Burnley and Everton keep getting the points back. I know Everton have a game in hand, but they're 2 points adrift. So you'd rather have a point in that situation, wouldn't you? But
I'm not particularly sure. I mean, they've got Watford in that game in hand. So I'm not saying that obviously I wouldn't want the points because you would at this stage, but I'm saying Everton have probably got a very decent chance of getting those 3 points back because it's against Watford. Obviously, Watford are looking they'll probably get relegated this weekend. If you look at the table and stuff, I mean Norwich have already gone, haven't they?
yeah,
You know, so I think Everton, especially after that Chelsea win last weekend, will be a lot more. I think it was riding a lot on that Chelsea game. They needed to get the win, and they did.
Yeah.
Because it now puts them in a position where they've got I think they've got Crystal Palace, they've got Brentford, and they've got Watford, and I also think they've got Arsenal last day of the season. So they've got teams I think that they can beat.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And so if you had to call it now, Joe, let's be very quick about this. Who do you think is going to go down? Call it now.
I mean, my original was Burnley. When I said so, I'd always stuck to with Burnley at this point, but I honestly think they're going to get out of it now.
So who do you think? One team go.
I think Leeds.
I'll have to agree with you, but I think it's going to be Leeds because I think Everton and Burnley have a momentum behind them at the moment, don't they?
And you look at Leeds fixture lists. They've got Man City. Well, they had Man City, didn't they? And I'm not sure, but they've got I think they've got Chelsea, and I think they've also got Arsenal. But they've got some difficult fixtures left. So I think the fixture list, I can't believe I say this, it actually swings in Everton's favour in terms of Leeds at this point.
No, I agree with that. It's crazy, isn't it? It's very, very going to be very exciting for the neutral, isn't it? Not
of course.
Scrap, but for everyone else, we'll be watching with bated breath.
Yeah, so yeah, I think Leeds are in trouble just because they lit the cigars up too early, didn't they, Will? I think.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see their new manager. So how he gets on in this adversity, shall we, then, Joe?
Jesse Marsh. Let's just see what happens. But yeah, anyway, going on to the final part of it. So obviously that was the Premier League sum up. I know we didn't do much on the Premier League this week, but it's been a lot of European football and Championship football this week. Let's go on to Joe Asks, Will Tells, and it's a very, very simple one because I know you mentioned it, and obviously with how you were feeling emotionally on Tuesday night. Club or country?
You see, I reckon that if I get to a playoff final, I would say I'll be there. I don't think I'll ever feel as nervous, regardless if England ever got to the World Cup final. I don't know what you think, Joe. Your emotions when Leicester won the league versus when England got to the semi-final yes, there was really, really high elation, but I think there's a difference, isn't there? I think it's club, but the country is close behind.
I think the issue is obviously your club. Your club is something you're attached to. It's 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 that thing. I mean, I know it sounds really, to anybody who's listening who isn't quite as avid football supporters as we are. Your club is something that it does run. When people say stuff like this, it sounds stupid, but it does run through your veins, doesn't it?
Because we watch them every week. You don't watch England every week, do you?
No, you don't. And you at the end of the day, people say players come and go, but you love the badge, don't you? That's the thing. You will always be a supporter of that club, and you think about the journey that your clubs have been on. You think about Forest down in League One getting relegated to League One. You think about Leicester getting relegated to League One. You think about Leicester winning the Premier League. You think about Forest's failures in playoff finals. You think about the emotions that you felt in those moments. And obviously going to see those. I know you've been to sort of League One playoff finals as well, or not playoff finals, but playoff legs as well, haven't you?
Yeah,
and, those. No, but I know. But what I'm saying is you're saying don't remind me, is that you can still feel that emotion. You can still feel that emotion, and I think, do you know what it is? I think when it comes to a country's loss, when it comes to England's loss, it's very, very painful, and it was a difficult one to get over. But what you realise is the whole country is feeling the same way. So there's more of you. Whereas if your club loses or your club wins, the adulation that you feel is only going to be a select, especially when it comes to Forest and Leicester, because obviously, as much as we are big clubs, we haven't got the fan base of like that of a United or a Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? We haven't got the fan base that they've got. So those select feelings that you're feeling for that club at that moment are your own, whether it be bad or good. Do you know what I mean? There's not many people there, so you feel that, you feel attached to your club. It feels very personal. So yeah, 100%, I agree. It's club for me as well.
Yeah, but I want to get your listeners' opinions on this. So comment down below, club or country. We would love to hear it, won't we, Joe? And I'll share it on our social media sites as well.
And obviously, why
about the results next week, Joe.
Yeah, that's fine. And obviously, why that is as well. Why do you want the club? Why do you prefer club or country? I will say this about country: I'm still an avid supporter of England, and obviously, when it comes round to the big competitions, there is nothing like a carnival, because I think it really does give a carnival atmosphere, doesn't it? When England are playing in those big tournaments,
because it brings fans together, which normally if they hate each other, like it brings people together, doesn't it?
I mean, look at me and you. It's the once every 2 years we come together and we're supporting the same team. We're good friends. Obviously, as listeners may have realised, we're very good friends. But at the same time, we don't have the club connection in common, because obviously we both support different clubs. So when you get that opportunity to be with a good mate and support the same team, it is a good feeling, isn't it? Like I say, carnival atmosphere, and it's a good thing.
100%. But yeah, thanks very much for today anyway, Joe. Next time we'll be talking about the biggest topics, probably the relegation fight and the playoff for Forest, and we'll also be talking about a team of the season. So
just a super quick one, Will. Who would you want in the playoffs?
Anyone.
You're confirmed, aren't you, as either finishing third or fourth, depending on the results today, because Huddersfield could still go above you, but obviously it doesn't really matter because you still get the home tie first.
Yeah.
Home tie second, I believe.
Yeah, so we'll probably have Huddersfield in the final. I wouldn't mind Luton potentially.
It doesn't always work like that though, does it? We know the playoffs. If you see the team who have just crept into the playoffs on the last day, they're usually the ones that make a go of it.
Yeah, 100%. Right, on that note, Joe, I think we should leave it there. Thanks very much for listening, guys. And don't forget to hit a like, subscribe, and like us on all